The simulation rounds cracked through the air with a sound that made most cadets flinch and duck. Most cadets, that is, except Private James Foster, the only human in Platoon 6 of the Galactic Coalition Military Academy. While his fellow trainees, beings, from all corners of the galaxy, pressed themselves into the mud, desperately trying to minimize their profiles, Foster was grinning. Not just a slight smile, but a full-blown, teeth-baring grin that would have been concerning in any context, let alone during a live-fire exercise where simulated plasma bolts were deliberately being fired 6 inches above their heads. "Keep moving." "Maggots!" bellowed Drill Sergeant Trovac, a hulking Brentari with leathery gray skin and 4 eyes that could independently track different targets. "Enemy fire doesn't stop because you're scared. Forward! Forward!" The cadets scrambled through the muck beneath the artificial sky of Training Dome 7. The other trainees, Lintari with their translucent skin, Vorpedians with their multi-jointed limbs, and even the usually stoic Razak twins from the methane plains of Vorta 6, were all exhibiting signs of extreme stress. Rapid breathing, dilated pupils, trembling appendages. And then there was Foster, crawling through the mud with surprising efficiency, occasionally chuckling when a round passed, particularly close to his head. "Something humorous about live-fire exercises, Private Foster?" Trovac's voice boomed over the cacophony of simulated warfare. "No, Drill Sergeant," Foster called back, his voice steady despite the exertion, but he was still smiling. A plasma round hit the dirt just inches from Foster's face, spraying mud across his features. This would have caused panic in any reasonable being. Instead, the human wiped the muck from his eyes and laughed. Not nervously. Genuinely laughed, as if someone had told a particularly good joke. Trovac's 4 eyes blinked in asynchronous confusion. The drill sergeant signaled to his assistant, Drill Corporal Nix, a thin Tyrellian with overlapping scales that shimmered in the artificial light. "Cease fire." "Cease fire," Nix called into his comm unit. The firing stopped immediately. Cadets froze, in place, confused by the unexpected halt to the exercise. "Foster front and center," Trovac roared. The human rose from the mud with casual ease, as if he were getting up from a relaxing nap rather than a grueling combat exercise. He jogged over to the drill sergeants and stood at attention, mud dripping from his uniform, that same unsettling smile still playing at the corners of his mouth. "What exactly do you find so amusing about this exercise, Private?" Trovac demanded, looming over the human. Despite being nearly 2 feet taller than Foster, the drill sergeant seemed oddly uncomfortable. "Nothing specific, Drill Sergeant," Foster replied calmly. "Just feels like home." The other cadets, now sitting up and catching their breath, exchanged confused glances. Home? His home world was that dangerous? Corporal Nix leaned in and whispered something to Trovac, who nodded grimly. "Platoon. Lecture hall now," Trovac ordered. "Double time." 20 minutes later, mud-caked but somewhat cleaner, Platoon 6 sat in the sterile environment of Lecture Hall B. At the front, Trovac stood beside an older Brentari, wearing the insignia of a senior officer, Major Drav, the Academy's xenobiology specialist. "Today's exercise revealed something important," Trovac began, his 4 eyes scanning the room. "Something you all need to understand about your fellow cadet." Major Drav activated the holographic display, and an image of Earth appeared. Blue, green, and swirling white clouds. Terra. Classification: Deathworld, Drav stated matter-of-factly. Gravity 1.3 times standard. Atmospheric pressure 1.2 times standard. Temperature variations from 60 to plus 150 degrees Celsius. Active tectonic plates causing earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. Weather patterns including hurricanes, tornadoes, lightning storms. The cadets shifted uncomfortably, looking at Foster with new understanding. "What makes humans unique," Drav continued, "is not just their physical adaptations to this environment, but their psychological ones." The hologram shifted to show human brain scans. Humans produce chemicals called endorphins during periods of stress or pain. These can create sensations of pleasure or euphoria. Additionally, they possess an unusual, psychological response called gallows humor, finding amusement in dangerous or frightening situations. Foster sat there, no longer smiling but looking slightly embarrassed as his biology was dissected before his peers. When Private Foster laughed during live fire, Trovac explained, he wasn't being insubordinate or crazy. He was exhibiting a normal human stress response. What terrifies you was literally triggering pleasure chemicals in his brain. The Razak twins chittered nervously to each other. The Lintari cadet's translucent skin flushed a deep purple. Furthermore, Major Drav added, the training exercise we consider intense would be comparable to moderate childhood play on parts of Terra. Their young engage in recreational activities involving projectiles, deliberate collisions, and competitions, specifically designed to push physical limits. Foster finally raised his hand. Permission to speak, sir? Trovac nodded. With respect, sir. I wasn't laughing because I was stressed, Foster explained. I was laughing because this reminded me of playing paintball with my cousins back home. The sound of the rounds, the mud. It brought back good memories. Silence fell over the lecture hall. Paintball? One of the Vorpedians finally asked. It's a game, Foster explained. We shoot each other with balls of paint for fun, training for combat scenarios but also just fun. Major Drav looked vindicated. Precisely my point. Humans engage in simulated combat as recreation. Trovac cleared his throat, all four eyes focusing on the platoon. This is why integrating species from varying planetary classifications is vital to the coalition. We each bring different strengths. Private Foster's psychological makeup may seem alarming, but in actual combat, this ability to remain calm, even find humor under fire, is invaluable. After the lecture, as the platoon headed to the mess hall, the other cadets gave Foster a slightly wider berth than before, all except Martin, a Lintari who finally worked up the courage to ask what had been on everyone's mind. Does anything scare you, Foster? Martin asked quietly. Foster considered this as they walked, then nodded. Plenty. But back home we learn early that showing fear often makes dangerous situations worse, so we joke instead. And the laughing? That's normal for humans. Not all humans, Foster admitted. But in my family, absolutely. My mother laughs when she's nervous. My father tells jokes during emergencies. My sister once cracked up after breaking her arm. It's just how we cope. The alien cadets exchanged glances, their understanding of their human companion fundamentally altered. What they had mistaken for madness was simply alienness, a different evolutionary response to danger. The next day, when live fire exercises resumed, Drill Sergeant Trovac noticed something interesting. The cadets still flinched at the rounds overhead, still pressed themselves into the mud, but now a few of them were attempting to smile through their fear. And at the front of the formation, Foster advanced steadily, occasionally offering words of encouragement to his struggling comrades. His laughter now understood not as insanity, but as the battle cry of a species that had evolved on a world where danger was simply part of daily life.